Welcome to AikiTalks, real stories, real practice, real Aiki. In this introduction episode, I want to share what this podcast is all about, what you can expect from future episodes, and a little bit about my own path into Aikido, the experiences, the challenges, and the moments that shape the way I train today. AikiTalks is a space for reflection, learning, and real experiences. Whether you're a complete beginner, a long-time practitioner, or simply someone who's curious about Aikido, this podcast will explore the ideas, stories, and principles that sit at the heart of our art. I started this podcast so I can reflect on courses, seminars, and special training events, to interview instructors and students across the Shingitai Aikido community and others, to explore Aikido concepts like relaxation, body shifting, Aiki, and the term Shingitai, to share experiences from everyday training, to highlight the people of Aikido and the untold stories within the dojo, to make Aikido approachable, thoughtful, and meaningful. This is Aikido spoken honestly, not just technique, but the mindset and the journey behind it, from my humble opinion. Aikido is more than movement. It's connection, reflection, and a continual process of learning. Over the years, I've seen again and again that some of the strongest lessons happen off the mat, in conversations after class, in reflection during long drives home, or during quiet moments after a seminar. This podcast brings those conversations to life. I want to take a moment to share a little about my own journey because, like every student, I didn't begin with confidence and clarity. I began with curiosity. My journey into Aikido starts with my parents, as with many childhood hobbies do, but my parents didn't see a poster for a class. They were both Aikidoka themselves, having trained under Sensei Ken Williams years before I was born. I have this fantastic photo of my father putting me in a gi jacket and tying his black belt around me when I was very young, and another of him performing an acrobatic over-the-top ukemi above my head, the camera angle making it look like I threw him with some force. These were my initial starting points. However, my true journey as an Aikidoka started when I was 9. I cannot say that I remember my first lesson. I do remember that classes were twice a week for children, on a Friday evening and a Sunday morning. The numbers were good, and I often managed to convince my friends to take part, even if it was just for a short time. Being on the mat was a fun and family experience for me. My parents, my sister, and I all trained. Sessions were dynamic and flowing. I was amazed at the people around me, the standard of the practice, but also the dedication everyone showed to this art. Like all new hobbies, I found it awkward at first, learning a new way to move and not look like a clumsy child. But I soon started to feel like a natural. Like all early Aikido journeys, my time on the mat brought forth challenges. The standard gradings with the dreaded feeling that I had to prove myself to my father, who expected nothing but the best from me, having an image to uphold as the dojo cho of the club. So I put my time and effort into perfecting what I could, and I was always pleased when I did pass a grade. Like all children, I looked forward to gaining something, being rewarded for my efforts and my hard work. Sometimes this contradicted what my sensei had in mind, however. There were long periods of time of training between some grades where others did their grading and improved in rank, and I stayed where I was. I think back to this and compare what it was like for my friends who were doing other martial arts at the time. Even so, my father had a plan. I didn't need to grade in all the belts and skipped some coloured belts and just had to wait a little longer. Reflecting on this at my age now, I see that actually it doesn't matter. It's all about the training. But as a child, you don't always look at it that way. These days, I would be pretty happy with a more traditional method of no coloured belts, but that's easy to say now that I've achieved my dan grade. Now, if anyone knows me well enough, they know my journey into Aikido had a bit of a blip. I had been training diligently with my club and managed to achieve my dan grade at an early age, having had to wait a little longer so I could be recognised as an adult grade and not a child grade. I had a bit of a competition going on with my father that I could pass my dan grade at a younger age than he did when he was a child. I actually did manage to do that, and I was extremely proud to represent my club and instructor in that way. However, the blip I mentioned earlier happened when my father passed away during an Easter school course in Buryport. As you can imagine, it was devastating and almost put me off Aikido for life. The day it happened is forever burnt into my mind as one of the saddest days of my life, as you would imagine. I won't go into any more detail, but for those of you who were there to help and support me and my family, we are forever grateful to them. We continued as a club after some time, now under the instruction of my mother. I realised that the reason we stayed was because we had a responsibility to the club, but also a responsibility to continue as best as I could and we could in my father's footsteps and to try and make him proud. I now see it as a way to continue his legacy. Now, I did take some time out, and the reason for that is university and work, things I did not know how to balance well with my life. However, I am now back and have been for a little while, and I see now that Aikido is needed in my life. And that, listeners, is why AikiTalks exists. I see this as a continuation of my training, a way to reflect on my journey, and if it helps others along the way, then why not? Aikido helped me work through things in my life, and balancing it with life is difficult, but manageable. So, yeah, that's why we're doing this. I know there must be other stories out there, and I want to know them to share not only the knowledge within our society and beyond, but the journeys, the personal stories that make Aikido meaningful. So, when I think about Aikido training and Aikido in general, I don't just think about a Keep Fit program. Again, for anyone who knows me, they know I am not the fit, muscular Adonis of man that sometimes we wish to be. I see Aikido as a means to betterment, a way to practice mindfulness whilst moving. It helps me to develop a calm in stress situations, something I'm still working on. Aikido to me has many aspects and doesn't just fall into one category. Hopefully, throughout our time in this series, we can get to the bottom of what Aikido means to us. In the coming episodes, you'll hear reflections on courses and seminars. This is a perfect time. I'm currently recording this a few days before our Easter school in the Shinkitai Aikido Society. And it's a 2-day course. I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully it'll give me a load to talk about and to reflect on. I'd like to have some interviews with instructors and senior students, do a beginner's friendly guide, concept deep dives into ideas that we may not think of but we all practice. Special segments highlighting some really important people in Aikido in my journey, stories from across our community, and thoughts on how Aikido influences life beyond the dojo. This podcast is a living reflection of our practice, always learning, always exploring, always growing. As I said, whether you've trained for years or you've never set foot on a mat, I invite you to walk this path with me. Listen, reflect, and bring the spirit of curiosity into each episode, just as we bring it into each class. So if anyone has questions they'd like, or to share experience, suggest topics, tell me their own stories, or discuss training challenges, I'd love to hear them. And you can always get in contact with about these things, and hopefully maybe take part in this podcast. Thank you for joining me for AikiTalks. Until next time, stay centered, keep training, and take care.